welcome back everybody. Here with Keegan St here, recent graduate of Hopkinton. Phenomenal athlete. Unfortunately, had a recent ACL tear, but she's worked really hard to battle back from that. So Keegan, welcome. We're going to go over your whole sports career, starting off with just growing up playing sports.
Yeah, okay.
So where do you want to go first?
I guess my first kind of like sporting event was biddy ball and t-ball for soccer and basketball, or softball and basketball, and then I joined the like little tykes or little strikes indoor league at the the Bow like indoor facility, and I kind of just was having fun playing around, and then kind of just became my passion. I started playing a lot more. As I grew up a little bit, I started joining like the ASA teams, and just kind of fell in love with like sports in general, staying active. Especially fell in love with soccer and softball. Those were my two.
What was about those two that really just captured your interest?
I love the physical aspect of soccer. I love running. I kind of just had like a special connection with like playing soccer, I guess. And then I also kind of had the same thing with softball. I just loved the different like aspects of softball, and that softball's not entirely like a super physical sport, but it's also challenging mentally, which was probably one of the biggest things that I loved about softball, because it's different. It works different parts of your brain and parts of your body than soccer does.
About how old were you when you started playing?
I don't remember how old I was. I started playing t-ball, and then I grew up, kind of started playing more intensely, and around like the age of 8 I started playing for like the ASA League, which is the travel league for softball.
Cool. So what was that experience like for you?
So I was playing in majors with like Hopkinton, and I had this one umpire go up to my coach and my mom after the game, and he was like kind of like, oh, you should play ASA softball. And my mom and I looked into it, and I was like, oh, this seems really fun. And I went to tryouts, and I joined a team, and I stuck with that team for 6 years. And that's when it kind of just like, I really knew that I wanted to play in college or play, like, keep my career going as far as I could.
So for you, once you got up to like the middle school level, did you know that this was something you were super passionate about doing and wanted to pursue varsity and possibly even further down the line college stuff?
Yeah, in middle school, that's kind of like when my recruiting career and my really in-depth like soccer career and softball career started. And that is when I knew I was going to play one of those sports in college, whether it was soccer or softball.
At that time, did you have any direction you were leaning, and how did you kind of figure that out as the years went along?
I did not. I had no idea if I wanted to play soccer or if I wanted to play softball. In college, at times I was going to go Division III to play both for college. And then one day it kind of just hit me. I realized that I like playing softball more competitively, and I like playing soccer more for fun. Like, I enjoy playing at the high level, but it's not something I'm as passionate about compared to softball. I would much rather play softball like competitively, Division I, and go as far as I can with it.
For you, when that clicked, why was it for you that softball instead of soccer that you wanted to pursue at that high level?
I'm not really sure. I want to say it's my team. I loved my team. I loved the softball community. It's just like a special connection that we have as a softball team, or like a special connection we have like with our coaches and everything. And it was the challenge that really struck with me, because I love a challenge. So when I noticed that like softball became more challenging for me, like especially mentally, I realized that like I want to overcome this challenge, and I want to learn how to deal with these like things that are bothering me in the softball world. And it's also more of a like, each time you make an error, you have to figure that out. Like, you have to overcome it. Like, you're hurting your team in a way, but at the same time, like, what can you do moving forward to like fix that for your team. And it's kind of just like, it's a different community than soccer was, and that was kind of just what I loved about it.
How do you balance like the individual aspects of a team sport with the team aspects of a team sport?
At times it can be difficult, but overall, like it gets easier as you play. Knowing that no matter what, your team is going to be there for you. So if you make an error or if you strike out, like your team's going to support you. They're not going to be mad at you. Like everybody makes mistakes, everybody will make an error, everybody will strike out. So just learning that like that's kind of normal. When you get a hit, when you get a home run, or when you make an amazing play, that's like something you've earned or something you've worked for. So it's more of like that's what you strive for, and what is the normal is like occasionally getting a hit, maybe striking out, sometimes making an error. That's kind of normal, and having to learn like that is like that's gonna happen. You have to push through it and like learn to push through it and then make those amazing plays. That's kind of what helped me like put both worlds kind of together.
That's a good explanation of that. Moving on, can you talk about your middle school experience in regards to the outcomes of each season and how you feel like you grew as an athlete?
So I played middle school sports in 7th grade. I played soccer and I played softball, but I didn't play middle school, and like I didn't play 8th grade year. In 7th grade I played for the both soccer and softball teams, as well as my travel teams. And having to like, I don't know, it's two completely different worlds, playing for middle school and playing for a club team. I enjoyed playing for both because I got different experiences from both teams, and I got different I learned different skills from both teams. When I played for middle school, and I was playing with all my friends, everybody kind of I grew up with. It was fun because it was more of like a community game, more of a community sport, and everybody was there to support you. All your moms or mom friends, they were all there to support you. And having to learn, like having to go to soccer, like my travel soccer, and learn that like everybody's kind of there just for their kid in a way. It was weird but different, and it was kind of like nice to have both worlds. Learning how to go to a middle school game and play and have a bunch of fun, and then going to travel and like having to take this super seriously because everybody just wants to win. Everybody's there to win, and everybody's kind of just being super competitive. It was much different than middle school.
It's an interesting analysis between the two different things.
Yeah.
So for you had both seasons for 8th grade. Obviously, I know towards the end of the year you would have been in 8th grade was when COVID happened and everything
Yes.
kind of got shut down. How'd you deal with stuff during that time?
I just stayed active. I tried to run as much as I could. My sports teams were kind of still playing, limited, but like my travel teams, we were limited, definitely. But we were still staying active, still trying to get practices in. Games, not necessarily as much because we couldn't travel too much, but practices, we definitely would like get on the field as much as we could, play as much as we could. But on my own, I would run, I would get out, I would play in my backyard, just do anything I can to stay active.
So do you feel like that was like a lot of discipline from yourself?
Yeah, I definitely think it helped me, especially now going to college. Like, I think it helped me learn how to balance a schedule and how to set up my future for success, like by putting extra hours in while hitting or playing by myself in the yard, and learning different drills to do on my own in the yard was also extremely beneficial for my college career.
Okay, so now moving on to your freshman year of high school. Tell us about that experience for you, and then you can add in details with your travel teams if you like.
I loved my freshman year. I joined the varsity soccer team. I tried out and they made the team, and I loved it. It was awesome. I loved my coach. I loved the team. It was so much fun for me. If I could go back to freshman year and play again, I would. That was probably my favorite year of soccer that I've actually ever had. I felt like I was challenged because I was the youngest on the team. but it was like a good challenge that I like to strive when it comes to challenges. So when I had to like prove myself and like show that I was meant to be here and that I earned a spot on the team, that was what really kind of got me started in my like soccer career. And then same for softball. I was the only freshman on varsity, so already it was a struggle. And then having to prove that I deserved to be on the field with all these seniors and all these juniors was one of the most like it was amazing, but like also stressful because I got to show that I deserve to be here and that I'm good enough to be here. But then I also had to make connections with the girls so that they wouldn't, because I was young, I was a freshman, so I had to make connections with the girls, and I ended up making some really great connections towards the end of the year.
So for you, at the end of that year, you ended up going somewhere else eventually.
Yes.
So can you take us through a little bit of softball, then we'll get to that?
Yeah. Just softball for my
freshman year.
So I started off the season playing second base, and I, at the time, did not like second base. So it was even more of a push for me to be like, oh, I deserve to be at shortstop. So I proved to my coaches and my teammates that shortstop is like I can play shortstop, and I strive as shortstop, and like that's where I've always played. That's where I grew up playing. So having to actually show that I'm good enough to play there, especially as a freshman, it was difficult at first, but then once I played there and I proved to myself in games that I deserved to be there, the players and the coaches started to have like a different look on a freshman playing shortstop.
Okay. So at the end of that season, at the end of that school year, transitioning, going somewhere else, what were the motivations for leaving?
Playing travel, I joined a new travel team for softball, and playing for a new team, I was going to miss a lot of school, and I was going to miss some games. And my freshman year, there was a little hiccup in some coaching athletic director stuff because I had to miss a game for a college showcase in Florida. I had to miss my first softball game of the season for that. And I was told that if I ever missed a game for another sport, that I would be suspended from school sports for a year. And I didn't really want to do that, so I had started looking at other schools and looking in other directions that might be able to support like my athletic needs and my academic needs as well. So I eventually found Tilton. I didn't want to board. It's a private school. I didn't want to board. And they offer a day student approach. So I was a day student. I loved it. I went there and I got the support that I needed. I could play my travel sports and I could travel all over the place. And my school was super, super flexible with it and super helpful.
How hard was it for you at the end of that freshman year to say goodbye to so many people, not knowing if you and when you would be back, and also taking on a new challenge that you're jumping in somewhere you haven't been before?
It was definitely hard. Freshman year, I'd made a really good group of friends, so it was hard to like say goodbye to all of them, and not know if I would ever play with them again. I loved playing with some of my teammates that I have now. Or had before I graduated. I loved playing with them. They were all great people. They were all super supportive of my future and my career goals, and it was definitely like a challenge to say goodbye to all of them. But then I ended up coming back my senior year, and I got to play with them one more time, and it was a good way to end my high school career.
Okay, can you talk us through some of your seasons over when you were going to Tilton and just the whole experience there?
So, I'll talk about soccer first. For soccer, I played my sophomore year. We were pretty good. We weren't like the best, we weren't the worst. We were in Class D, and we made it to the semifinals for our division, kind of. And it was a new coach, and it was a new team. Everything was new. It was fun, and it was a much different environment than a public school environment and like sports wise, and it was a challenge to like adapt at first, but it was really fun when I got to spend hours and hours, not inside of the classrooms or anything, but like in the dorms or in the dining hall. I got to spend with these girls, and we do so many team bonding activities that it just made the soccer experience like 10 times more fun. And then my junior year, we didn't have a goalie. So I was like, oh, you know what? Why not? It'll be a fun challenge. I can help the team. So I played goalie my junior year. And it was definitely an experience. It was different than anything else I'd had. But it was overall one of, like, honestly the best experiences. My senior year soccer, I could tell that being a goalie had helped my, like, view of the field. I was more aware of certain things, because when you're standing in net, you gotta see the whole field. You see everything that's going on. So when I got to play on the field again, I completely, like, my game completely changed. My mind was just, everything was different, but in a good way.
Okay, so that's super helpful for you to see. That's really
Yeah.
cool insight to be able
Yeah.
to see it from a goalie's perspective and then be able to use that kind of against goalies in the
Yeah.
future. So wrapping up your Tilton experience, and you decided to come back to Hopkinton. How come?
I had committed for softball, so my junior year, I played softball for Tilton as well, but my junior year softball season is kind of when I had started, like, I knew I was gonna go back to Hopkinton because I was talking to a bunch of coaches. I was like, getting ready to commit for a sport, whether it was soccer or softball. At that time, I still didn't know. But I was kind of like finished with my college process, like recruiting process. So I knew that I was going to go back to Hopkinton because I didn't need the support at that as much anymore. And I had stopped playing travel soccer going into my senior year so that I could focus more on school and more on softball. So that's when I kind of decided that it would be best for me and I could graduate with all of my friends that I grew up with and all the people I grew up with. So that was kind of what originally made me decide.
We'll get into that in a minute. Just take us through a little bit about your decision making. Obviously, you gave your explanation for picking softball, but of where you wanted to go in that whole process of getting into college to play sports.
So, like, do you want me to talk about my, like, recruiting process for softball? Okay. So, my junior year, I just kind of started, that's when I really started my recruiting process, which is really late for softball. I had gone to camps, I had gone on visits to colleges, and I had gone to some tournaments that really got me, like, a bunch of exposure. And then I had one school that kind of stuck out, which is Ryder, which is where I'm going. And I just loved their campus. I loved the school. I loved the coaches and the team. And I kind of knew that if they had given me an offer, I was going to go there because I had loved just everything about it. So in June, I went to a tournament in Colorado, and all three of the Ryder coaches came to my game, and they had given me an offer right after that game. And at first I didn't commit because I had a couple other offers that I had received that day, and I didn't really know. I knew that Ryder was going to be my school, but I wanted to weigh in all the offers that I had gotten. So about a couple weeks later, I had officially decided to commit for softball. Or for Ryder. I had texted the coach and I was like, I knew this was my school from like the day that I stepped on campus, and I'm excited for my next 4 years here. And then I had posted it on social media, and it kind of became like all real. And then from there, it was just like, I don't know, it was like a different. I didn't play softball differently, but I played with like a different mentality in a way.
Okay, coming back to Hopkinton, and you realize, you know what, I'm coming back for my last year. I'm excited. I got soccer, basketball, and softball. I want to finish this thing out. Who were the first people you texted?
Coach Zahn, for my soccer coach, he was the first person I told that I was coming back to Hopkinton. That was probably one of the most exciting things for me, was to be able to play for Zahn again. But after that, I texted Liz, and I texted Allie, some of my soccer friends, and I was kind of just telling people slowly that I was deciding to come back and that I was going to finish my senior year at Hopkinton. But definitely my first was Coach Zahn. I texted him before I texted anybody, and then kind of just followed with some of my friends.
Awesome. So you guys had a really, really great year, made it to the Final Four, and you had an outstanding year offensively. I think it was a big advantage for your team that goalies, every game would be sleep deprived because they'd have nightmares the night before of you coming up the field with the ball.
Yeah, it was. I played a different position this year for soccer, my senior year. Normally I play midfield, but Zahn had me at a striker position, which I got to use my speed to my advantage, which was super helpful. And then I just used all my travel experiences, my travel soccer experiences, for like where to finish and where the goalie's not going to expect. And so that really that definitely like gave me an advantage when it came to shooting and scoring on all the goalies.
How many goals did you put up?
I think it was like 43 or 45 by the end of the season.
Wow.
Yeah.
So pretty much averaging a hat trick almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, incredible season. That was huge for them. What were your favorite moments of that season?
One of my favorite moments was one of the first games. Just being able to be on the team, like on the field with the girls again. I loved going to practices and just kind of having fun. It was less stressful than any of the other years that I've played soccer, because I knew that this was going to be my last official year of soccer. And at times it made me sad, but it made me kind of enjoy the sport even more than I had before, because I had a different respect for how much that soccer's actually given me. And so being able to step on the field with all of my teammates were one of my favorite moments of this whole soccer year.
Awesome. So Final Four, got to be happy with that.
Yes.
And then, really, really good season. So moving on to basketball, there was more questions than answers about this team at the start of the season, because they were losing their head coach. They had lost however many, it was 8 seniors the year before, and then it's okay, we have Katie, we have Sid, we have Liz, and we have Shay, and we know that these are the faces of our team, but having you come back to help out was definitely really huge for the team, especially in the beginning of the season, and have that starting 5, we're like, wow, that's a pretty, really, really good starting 5 compared to what we thought we were going to have. So thoughts on that?
This was my first year playing basketball, varsity high school basketball. I didn't play my freshman year, and I didn't really play at Tilton. So it was going to be something different for me to try. But I decided originally that it was just going to be something that I'll try. I'll go to tryouts. I'll see how it is. And then I loved everything about it. I loved the team. I loved the coach. Everything was just it was fun. It was light. It was easy. Not easy in a sports aspect, but it was easy to enjoy. So it was definitely fun for me to play. And our starting 5 at the beginning of the season was really strong. We came out hard every game, and it was eye-opening.
I remember at that alumni game, there was just this buzz around the building that, oh my gosh, this team's going to be really good.
Yes.
In comparison to what people thought, because I went to some of the summer league games and I saw how well everything was going, so it was really, really exciting. And then you guys race out to whatever it was, the 8-0 start, and it's kind of surreal. You're up there for a long time with Winnisquam as the top 2. When you guys realized, gosh, we're really, really good, what was that like?
It was nice, because we had originally we weren't sure how the season was gonna play out. But then once we realized that we were winning a lot of games and this was going to be a good season for Hopkinton, it kind of gave us a different mindset. And a lot of my coaches in my day call it a championship mindset. So you're kind of striving to get to that. You're working to get to that final moment, like that final championship game. And we knew that we could get there. No matter what happened, we were gonna push and push until we got to that championship game, which we did. And it was awesome. But once we knew that we were good, it was kind of just like we gotta prove to everybody else, because we know we're good, but other people aren't sure yet because we have so many new players.
All right. Probably worst part of this episode I'm going to ask you about. You already know what's coming. ACL.
Yeah.
What was it like on the court? Because that was volleyball, right?
Yeah. I was playing just volleyball in the gym with a bunch of people, and I went up for a spike, and I came down, and I landed wrong and tore my ACL. Yeah.
So did you know right away this is not good?
Yeah, the first words out of my mouth were, I just tore my ACL. I kind of knew right away. I felt it pop. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was pretty sure that this was going to be like a season-ending injury, and that if it was my ACL, I wasn't going to be able to play for a long time, which was hard at first. But going through the recovery process it's difficult. There's some really mentally challenging moments, but overall, it's getting easier as I go along.
Okay, so we'll talk to you about the recovery process in a minute, but I just want to focus on the season now.
Mm-hmm.
Katie Brown, unfortunately, likewise, had an injury, and that really hurt you guys a lot, because all of a sudden you have like this, ultimate starting five that just like falls apart. Now you gotta like rely on this big three of Sid, Liz, and Shay. But beyond that, all these younger freshmen, it's like you have to go play now.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have a choice. You have to go play. How, as a member of that team, do you and Katie stay along after devastating injuries your season and help try and be leaders to help them go along and reach the goal of getting to the state championship?
Well, I knew kind of right when I tore my ACL, I was like, somebody is going to have to step up. But knowing how hard everybody works at practice and knowing how much coach is going to push everybody to their limits, I knew that there was going to be someone who could replace me and that could strive in the position that I was in. And originally, it was a sophomore, because we didn't have any juniors. So a sophomore took my position, and she did so good. There were different sophomores. It really depended on the game, but no matter who was in my position, I knew that they were going to work as hard as they could, and they wanted it almost as bad as I did. And so I knew that we were going to stay strong, even with me out. And then when Katie tore her ACL, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be difficult. But in the end, we had everyone on the team stepped up, and everyone pushed their way through. And it was amazing to like watch everyone and know that everyone wants this and everyone wants to win. So it was great to be a part of that team.
Last week of the season, team is record-wise 13-1, and we've clinched a top 2 spot at this point. We're ahead of Winnisquam. Winnisquam was, I think, the 3 at the time, or the 4 of them in Kearsarge. Either way, clinched the top 2 spot. 14 teams in the bracket, so top 2 teams get by. So it was just between us and St. Thomas. That Mascoma game was really meaningless because regardless of win or loss, you're going to have the outcome where you're going to end up going to St. Thomas at the end of the week and win against the 1 seed. So that senior night was just bizarre because you're out, Katie's out, Viola is healthy, but she's like still kind of getting more experience. And then Liz is sick. And I was like, I've never seen a senior night like this in my entire life, where all of them are pretty much sick and like you barely getting any playing time. I was like, what is going on here? And we didn't win that game, but it didn't really matter. So I'll just like talk to you about that game and like just 1, the weirdness of it, and 2, just like the significance of being a senior.
Well, so that was 4 days right after my surgery for my ACL. So I went to the beginning of the game to enjoy senior night, but I have to elevate my leg because I couldn't have all the whatever the surgery things are. So I went for the beginning of the game, the opening like senior night thing, and then I had to go home. I watched some of the game from home, but it was definitely an interesting game. And I heard a lot about it too, and it's crazy to think like the one night that we honor our seniors, only one of them could play. So
bizarre. I'm up there in the broadcast booth. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say at that point.
Yeah.
But, credit to Mascoma. They played well. And then end of the week, I remember I was here, I was on my computer, and I go through and I read every game that's going on that week. Mm-hmm. And that was Thursday night. It was Hopkinton St. Thomas for the 1 seed on the road. And I was going to go regardless, but I was looking at Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, Division 4 for both boys and girls. Mm-hmm. And I was like, not only was I going to go in the first place, but 2, this is the game of the night in the entire state.
Yeah.
I was listening to the New Hampshire Sports Page podcast, and they were saying the same thing. So I was really excited to go there, and unfortunately it didn't go exactly how we wanted to, but that was okay. Still really good position for you. It was exciting to go play St. Thomas. So what was it like kind of watching?
I watched from my bed because of the long drive. I couldn't be on the bus for that long, so I was in my bed and I watched, and it was definitely, we pushed. We did really well against this strong team, but it was, no matter what the outcome was, I knew that the girls were going to try their hardest and that we were going to have a spot in playoffs and we were going to push in playoffs, no matter what the outcome of this last game was going to be. So watching from home, knowing that this was our last game of the season, but was not going to define us as a team, I was confident that the girls would try their hardest. So.
Yeah. So then playoffs start, get the bye, Monadnock.
I was excited for that one, but I didn't know how it was gonna go either. There was a lot going on between our team and their team. They were gonna want revenge from losing, and we were kind of just out there to win. But we pushed. Everyone pushed. It was a fun game to watch.
And then Final Four against Winnisquam. I was expecting a tight 5-point win. We won by, 20 almost?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was not expecting that. They came out with fight that game. They were ready to win, and it was in the locker room before, it was thrilling to be part of that team because even though I couldn't play, everyone was pumped, everyone was ready, no matter whether they were playing or not, and the locker room's going crazy.
That atmosphere was so surreal. I remember walking down to the locker room with you guys after that game and realizing that championship is on the horizon, and that was one of my favorite things I've been a part of since covering sports. So that was just special. That was really, really special.
Yes, it was special. It was a really, really good game and a good day.
Yeah, it was an awesome day. And then Keene State, Kearsarge. Yeah.
It was a rough one. I definitely think that we could have pushed and we could have won. Kearsarge did play really hard. It was hard with Liz not playing really, and every time she did play, was limping, and it was hard for her. So it was definitely a challenge overall for not only the team, but Liz and coach, and then Katie and I just sitting on the bench. It was hard for us because we knew that we wish we could be out there helping the team. We wish we could do something, but unfortunately there's not much we can do other than cheer as loud as we can. So that's what we did. We cheered as much as we could, as loud as we could, and unfortunately the game did not go our way. Yeah,
that was disappointing, but you also have to be super happy with how good the season was. Even if we can play the if game, but you and Katie don't have those injuries. A lot of people at the start of the season weren't expecting even a Final Four appearance with both of you guys assuming that you guys would have been healthy.
Yeah.
So super exciting season, and then wrapping it up with softball, obviously not able to play.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. It opened up some opportunities for me not being able to play. I got a job, so that was nice. Normally I don't get to have to work because I'm traveling all summer or I'm playing sports all the time. So I have a job, and it's been a different path for me, but it's been a good one. Not being able to play softball though is definitely one of the hardest things for me because it's my passion. It's everything I love. So having to I went to my sister's games, and just having to sit there and watch and not be able to play, not be able to enjoy my senior season with all my friends. It was definitely hard and it was definitely rough, but overall it gave me a different look. It gave me a different approach on my recovery process in a way, because before I was I'll get through this, it'll be so easy, blah blah. But then when I started having to watch the games, I was oh, this is a lot harder. This is more mentally challenging than I thought. And it was I had to take a step back and realize that softball is where I want to end up. Softball is what I want to do. So let's not rush this. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
Right. So for you now, just graduating, what was the feeling graduating, walking across the stage?
It was so nice to know that now not my future starts, but softball and college, and I get to study what I'm passionate about. It was extremely exciting having to getting to walk across the stage. Not only did I get to, but I earned it after my 4 years of hard work and the years before that in first grade through 8th grade. All of the hard work I put in my academic career, walking across the stage, I finally got to finish what I started for high school or school in general.
So let everybody know what you're studying.
Criminal justice with a minor in psychology.
What was the inspiration for that?
I want to go into law enforcement, probably be a police officer or a state trooper, and then get into something higher from there, detective, FBI, something crazy good. But I've always kind of wanted to help people or be able to give people support. And I wanted to be a doctor for the longest time, but who wants to go through that much school? So originally I was police officer would be fun. But then I kind of had, softball, it's kind of a passion for me. I am going to be a police officer. I do ride-alongs all the time. And just being able to see the amount of community help that police officers, provide, it's crazy, and it's something I'm super excited for.
Okay, and then just kind of your closing thoughts on everything, your advice to younger people who are watching?
Well, I say never give up. I almost gave up. But I didn't want to play softball in college, or I didn't want to chase my dreams, and I almost gave up. And then I realized that I have put in all of this work. I have done so much for these next few years, and I deserve it. I earned it, and now I get to live my dream. So always push, always work hard, and live your dream.
All right, thanks, Keegan.
Of course.